How do you know if you're a people pleaser? There's a way of knowing. People pleasing is when you give with an expectation. You give because you want to be liked. You give because you don't want to get rejected. Somewhere in your childhood, somewhere growing up, you realize that the only way for people to accept you is by giving and pleasing them. It could be from your family that you saw this happen, maybe from parents doing this with relatives and the community and neighbors, or school, or you learn this in school that that's the only way to get acceptance because as you were, you didn't feel accepted. So people pleasing is a inadvertent strategy to be accepted, and it is manipulation, and the person doing it doesn't realize that they're manipulating people. But what it comes down to is the fear of being rejected, the fear of being ousted of the community. And as a species, we survived by living in communities. We didn't thrive by being independent and living on our own. We as the human race did not survive that way. We survived in communities. So being ignored or isolated 100 years ago, 500 years ago, you wouldn't survive. 1,000 years ago, you wouldn't survive. In the Ice Age, there's no way living by yourself. So, even stories, they talk about the scary old man living in the woods or the ogre or whatever, and this like independent creature living by itself, not needing anyone. And he's always the boogeyman. There's a reason for that, because someone to live and thrive independently, they need to have resources that a normal human doesn't have. And this is unusual. We're living in an era where being independent is pushed and pushed and pushed, but we're meant to live in communities. So people pleasing isn't such a bad thing if you look at it in terms of living in a community, but where it's manipulative, where that's the only thing that that person is doing because they want to be accepted. Again, you can't blame the person because they've learned this through experience, that it's almost like I'm not good enough as a person by myself to be accepted as I am. But the truth is, we are all worthy of love. We are all worthy of acceptance. And the people pleasing can be extreme, where you abandon yourself and you say yes to things that you don't want to do. You don't know how to say no. This is where it starts to affect you and affect your life, where you give more than you get. And the balance, there's an imbalance. So you actually give so much, but you're not getting any of your needs met. And in terms of attachment styles, the anxious attached person is usually the people pleaser. You can get them from fearful avoidance as well, but generally the anxiously attached person is the people pleaser. And it's worth looking at what needs to happen. What you need to do is work on this self-esteem, work on your self-value, and slowly learning to say no to things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you just find it hard to say no. That's where the changes can happen. So someone's asking you to do something and you learn to say, no, at this today I can't, maybe another week. That's you respecting your time, your needs. You're not saying no entirely. That you can start with that. Saying no outright might feel wrong, but you can start with no, not right now, because I've got certain things to do. You shouldn't have to explain either. And me, as someone who does like to people please, or used to, I do end up over explaining. That's another trait of a people pleaser. So these are just some of the things worth knowing about people pleasers. And it is an ongoing thing. And it starts with self-esteem, working on self-esteem, so working on self-worth. It doesn't mean you turn into a bitch and selfish, arrogant person. That's not it at all. And people who are people pleasers tend not to do that anyway. They're not that kind of person anyway. It's just learning to have balance and making sure that your needs are being met too, either by yourself or from support, but generally by yourself, that you're meeting your own needs and setting in boundaries so that you can do your things first. And then once you look after and take care of yourself, you then have the capacity and the ability to help others.